Good evening. Today we'll talk about Chapter 3, Marketing Management, Consumer Behavior. Consumer behavior is the nexus between psychology and marketing. It's very important for marketers and owners of business to understand how consumers behave, how they to understand the thought process or the buying process of individuals who are interested in a product or service. Because without that, you're going in blind. You can't properly design, you can't properly prepare for it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Figure 3.1, an overview of the buying process. There are social influences to society, to the people that you quote unquote hang out with. Marketing influences, situational influences. You walk into a store, a certain emotion is elicited, and then of course you behave in a certain way. The marketing influences and the other two mentioned deal with basically converge on the psychological influence, which of course then converges together with the marketing influence on the consumer decision making process. Culture and subculture. Culture is one of the most basic influences on an individual's needs, wants, and behavior. Cultural values are transmitted through three basic organizations: the family, which has the most influence because a child is born into family at a young age. They're already indoctrinating the child with certain values. Of course, then the religious organizations that they have affiliation with as they get older, and of course the educational institutions, and in many communities the educational and religious organizations are one. Social influences on consumer decision making. Marketing managers should adapt the marketing mix, the four P's, the convergence of the four P's, the use of the four P's, to cultural values. Constantly monitor value changes and differences in both domestic and global markets. Subcultures arise when population loses a significant amount of its homogeneity, which means basically it's not all the same. There's little parts of the market that are different than the general, and of course then they break away. Subcultures are based on geographic areas, religions, nationalities, ethnic groups, and of course age. Social class develops on the basis of such things as wealth, skill, and power. For marketing purposes, four different social classes have been identified. Upper Americans, differentiated mainly by having high incomes. Middle class, these consumers want to do the right thing and buy what is popular. Working class, people who are family folk, who depend heavily on relatives for economic and emotional support. Lower Americans, as diverse in values and consumption goals as are other social levels. Reference groups and families. A reference group or groups that an individual looks to when forming attitudes and opinions. Who are the people that they value? Who are the people that they respect? Primary reference groups, family and friends. That is very, very important because they have the most immediate impact. Secondary reference groups, fraternal organizations and professional associations. Reference groups and families. Family is recognized to be an important reference group. The needs, income, assets, debts, and expenditure patterns change over the course of the family life cycle. Marketing influences on consumer decision making. Product influences. Brand name, which of course people are many times slave to. Quality, newness, complexity, physical appearance and of the product. Packaging, which is very important, and labeling information, which helps people make an informed decision. Price influences. Value conscious consumers buy products more on the basis of price than on any other attribute. Promotional influences, advertising, sales promotions, salespeople, and publicity. Price influences, products convenient to buy, products sold at exclusive outlets, products offered by non-store methods such as the internet. Situational influences, all of the factors particular to a time and place that have a demonstrable and systematic effect on current behavior. Situational influences on consumer decision making, physical features, geographical and institutional location, decor, sounds, aromas, lighting, weather, and visible configurations of merchandise so that they can see it a certain way, or other materials. Social features, other persons present, their characteristics, their apparent roles, and interpersonal interactions. Time may be specified in units ranging from time of day to the season of the year, which can also influence a consumer behavior process. Situational influences on consumer decision making. task features, an intent or requirement to select, shop for, or obtain information about a general or specific purchase. Current conditions, momentary moods, such as acute anxiety, pleasantness, hostility, and excitation, or momentary conditions such as cash on hand, fatigue, and illness, rather than chronic individual traits. Psychological influences on consumer decision making. Product knowledge, amount of information a consumer has stored in his or her memory about particular products and ways to purchase them. Group, marketing, and situational influences determine the initial level of product knowledge and changes in it. Influences, how much information is sought when deciding to make a purchase, how quickly a consumer goes through the decision-making process. Psychological influences product involvement, a consumer's perception of the importance or personal relevance of an item. Influences consumer decision-making in two ways. If purchase is for a high involvement product, consumers are likely to develop a high degree of product knowledge. Psychological influences product involvement, a high degree of product involvement encourages extensive decision-making by consumers. Figure 3.2, the consumer decision-making process. There's a need recognition, there's a need that needs to be dealt with, needs to be solved, the problem needs to be solved. Then there's alternative search. What an alternative search is basically look for the alternatives that help satisfy the needs. Alternative evaluation, you evaluate each of the alternatives based on its own merit. Purchase decision, and of course post-purchase evaluation. And of course you either have cognitive dissonance or congruence, meaning you either have regret or you're happy with your decision. Types of decision making. Extensive decision making requires the most time and effort since the purchase typically involves a highly complex or expensive product that is important to the consumer. Limited decision making requires a moderate amount of time and effort to search for and compare alternatives. Routine decision making involves little in the way of thinking and deliberation. Need recognition, the recognition by the consumer of a felt need or want. Either internal or external stimuli may activate needs or wants. What is a need recognition? Marketing managers must find out what needs and wants a particular product satisfies. What unsatisfied needs and wants consumers have for which a new product could be developed to satisfy them. Remember, marketing is a needs-based process, and you want to make sure that you satisfy very, very, very well what people want, because without that satisfaction, people are not going to be happy. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have physiological needs, primary needs of human body such as food, water, and intimacy. Safety needs, protection from physical harm, ill health and economic disaster, and avoidance of the unexpected. People need to feel safe. Belongingness and love needs, higher level need. And remember, according to Maslow, you cannot go from one need to the next unless the prior need has been fulfilled and satisfied. Belongingness and love needs, social and gregarious nature of humans, friendliness of humans, and the need for companionship. Being lonely is terrible. You can have all the food in the world, all the safety in the world, but if you're lonely, it is a living hell. Esteem needs, awareness of importance to others, and actual esteem from others. People need to feel like they're valued. People need to feel that they are sometimes on a pedestal. And self-actualization needs, desire to become everything one can become and fully realize talents and capabilities. Basic sources for purchase decision. Internal sources, stored information and experience a consumer has in memory for dealing with a particular need. Group sources, common sources of information for purchase decisions that comes from communication with other people. Basic sources for purchase decision, marketing sources, advertising, salespeople, dealers, packaging, and displays offered by marketers. Public sources, newspaper articles about the product and independent ratings of the product. Experiential sources, information a consumer gets from handling, examining while shopping for a product. Alternative search. Information processing is used as a four-step process in which the individual is exposed to information, becomes attentive to the information, understands the information, obtains the information. Alternative evaluation continued. Consumer has information about a number of brands in a particular class, such as Honda, Ford, etc., in a specific class of vehicle. Consumer perceives that some of the brands in a product class are viable alternatives for satisfying a recognized need. Each of these brands has a set of attributes, and then those attributes are looked at and weighed. So the set of these attributes is relevant to the consumer based on his or her needs. The consumer perceives that different brands vary in how much of each attribute they possess. Consumers prefer brands that have desired attributes in desired amounts and, of course, in a desired order. The brand the consumer likes best is the brand the consumer will intend to purchase. Purchase decision. Purchase decision involves many decisions: product type, brand, model, dealer selection, method of payment. Consumers reduce the risk by reducing negative consequences, uncertainty. Post-purchase evaluation. If a particular product fulfills the need for which it was purchased, the probability is high that the product will be repurchased. The occurrence of post-decision dissonance is related to the concept of cognitive dissonance, which means a lack of harmony among a person's thoughts after a decision has been made. Post-purchase evaluation continued. The occurrence of post-purchase satisfaction is related to this confirmation paradigm, which is views consumer satisfaction as the degree to which the actual performance of a product is consistent with the expectation a consumer had before the purchase. Marketers should not raise pre-purchase expectations to such a level that the product cannot possibly meet them. It is important to create positive expectations consistent with the product's likely performance. Otherwise, people will be very, very disappointed. If you make too much hype, if you hype up, you build up the product to a high, abnormally high level, then people are going to be very, very disappointed because they're expecting who knows what, and you're giving them something much less. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.